got myself a date with the GR Corolla today, and big thank you to my buddy Tyler for letting me borrow this car for the day to give it a little test drive and show you guys what it's like. I'll go ahead and put his Instagram handle below for you guys to go and give him a follow. Let's get one thing very clear right off the bat. This is not a typical Toyota Corolla. That is for sure. These are actually built in a Japanese factory that used to be used to create the Lexus LFA, which is the supercar that Toyota built a few years ago. A few other ways that you can tell this is definitely not your average Toyota Corolla, aside from the badging and stuff, is the factory wide body fenders and everything on here. We've got a forged carbon fiber roof, and I don't know how much of a difference this actually makes in weight loss, but it sure looks cool. We've got these kinds of vents and stuff on the side. Yeah, this is definitely not your average Corolla. This is a 3-cylinder turbocharged all-wheel drive 6-speed manual only monster. So there were 3 different versions of the GR Corolla sold, and there was the Core version, which is your base model, and then this one, which is your Circuit Edition, and there was the Maurizio version that was like the kind of the die-hard racy version, and I don't think we got those here in Canada. So this is about as nice of one as you can get, and these ones have a much nicer interior than the Core version does. These ones, as you can see, have a mixture of leather and Alcantara stitching. I believe these are the same seats that are in the Supra. I could be wrong. You can also see these are limited to 181 units for this year, and I'm not sure if this is in Canada or if this is worldwide. So a Circuit Edition like this one is going to run you about $60,000, which seems like a lot for a Corolla, but once you realize what this car truly is, which is a street legal rally car essentially, you can start to understand why it costs more, and the way that it drives, the way that it behaves is nothing like a typical Corolla. Now, despite only having 2,000 kilometers on the clock, Tyler has already started modifying this thing, and he actually has it lowered on IBAC Sportline springs, which dropped it down quite a bit. I think he said it was about a 2-inch drop. This thing is sitting very aggressively, so if you're looking to rally a car like this or drive it on dirt roads and stuff, you're probably going to want to go the other direction, but for a street car, it gives it a much meaner stance. I think he also has some wheel spacers on here too to push the factory wheels out a little bit. We've also got a Flow Design front lip here with the extensions as well. He just put this on last night actually. We've got some pedestrian killers up here, and we also have the Flow Design side skirts and also the rear spats here, all from the same company, so that just adds to the aggressive look that this car already has. Let's take a quick look under the hood. So here you can see this is again a little bit different than a factory GR Corolla. He's got this Venturi carbon intake and a Titan Motorsports engine cover here, again at a dry carbon. Matches, it's actually almost the exact same weave with both of these parts, despite being from 2 different companies. It's also got this cool Blitz strut tower bar, which makes it so he can't change his oil, which is kind of funny. All right, let's take this puppy for a little ripperino, shall we? We've got our push button start. Very cool little welcome screen here with the GR logo on it when you fire it up. And of course, this is all digital stuff for the gauge cluster here. The days of old school needles and gauges are definitely over. So in terms of the seating position, I have to say I think it's a little bit higher than I would like as a taller driver. I would like to be sitting a little bit lower in the car, I think. Another thing that I noticed is the lack of a center console down here, or an armrest for that matter. While we're down here though, that's a con, but one of the pros is we actually still have a traditional manual parking brake here, guys. And not only that, to take it one step further, because this all-wheel drive system is predominantly front-wheel drive and it can disengage the rear axle, you can actually crank the e-brake and do kind of e-brake turns and stuff with this rally style, and it'll disconnect the rear axle when you pull the e-brake, which is very cool. Now, am I going to test that out today? Absolutely not. This is not a test car. This is actually a good friend of mine's car, and I'm not going to be disrespectful and beat the heck out of it for him. One of the big claims to fame of this car is you can adjust the power to the front and rear wheels. So by default, you can see I don't know if you can see in the screen here, it says 60/40, and then we can actually turn this to 70/30, or we can go to track mode, which is 50/50 then at that point. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it in 730. This car also has a different harness that turns the IMT on automatically, which is this button right here. That's just your automatic rev matching for your downshifts. It just makes life a little bit easier, and it makes it look like you're a pro race car driver that can nail every downshift perfectly. So we're gonna leave that on for right now. We've got the different drive modes here. I'm gonna leave it in sport mode, I think. I'm not sure what that does to the steering and the throttle, but I'm sure it makes some kind of an adjustment because all of this stuff is electronic on these things now. So pop it into gear. I do have to be a little bit careful because this car is pretty darn low between the lowering springs and the fact that it has that low hanging front lip. I don't want to smash it off the front of his bumper when he hasn't even driven this car with this bumper or this lip installed yet, so. Easy does it. So one thing to keep in mind here, guys, is that I'm driving this car from the perspective of owning my MR2, which is kind of a freak of a car, really, in itself, and that's not exactly a compliment. That car is kind of horrible to drive. It's highly modified, it's 30 years old, it's got a tilt and clutch, it's got a big turbo, it has lots of lag and everything, so I'm used to driving that when I'm comparing to this. So keep that in mind when I'm kind of making my opinions about this. One of the first things that I notice about driving this car is the feel of this shifter. Now, these cars from the factory I think are known for having really good feeling shifters, but this one is up a notch from that because he's actually upgraded the bushings in the shifter with some stuff from DC Sports. So it's a little bit tighter and a little bit more precise even than factory. Another thing that makes the shift feel a little bit different here is the upgrade that he made to that engine pitch mount, which I guess that's a common problem with these. When you're coming up to a slow roll, like at a stop sign or something like that, it's a little bit hard to get from second gear into first gear. It's a little bit too notchy. And apparently that's just a matter of engine rotation, it sounds like. So by upgrading that pitch mount, that seems to help that quite a bit. If we can clear these speed bumps very well. Oh, that's not bad. You can hear a lot of blow-off valve noise on this car, and I'm not sure if that is related to the aftermarket intake. I think it might be. I'm not sure if a stock one would sound like that. But it's definitely sensitive. As soon as you let off the gas, even if you are seemingly not building any boost, it's still gonna sneeze at you. Which, if that's the experience that you're going for, then that's great. But for those of us that have kind of maybe matured over the years and don't really want to draw attention to ourselves, having a blow-off valve that sneezes every time you adjust your foot on the throttle is a little bit attention grabbing. Some people are just really excited to be driving a turbo car and they want the world to know it, and that's cool. I think I'm just so used to driving my car and just so desperately wanting to lay low because it is a highly modified bright red car that I just don't really want attention in that. The clutch feel on this car is very light and very easy to modulate. I find this car extremely easy to drive. Honestly, I would think it might even be impossible to stall it. It seems like it's pulling the revs up a little bit even if you're not adding throttle yourself. Steering is very connected. The steering feel really feels good in this car. about getting on the highway here, it's very compliant. This suspension feels very smooth when you're on smoother roads like this. I have to say, you do feel some of the sharper hits in the road though. Overall, I would say it rides very smooth. Noise levels at highway speeds like this are almost non-existent, I would say. Yeah, this is very livable on the highway. I would see this being a really good road trip car as long as, you know, you don't have like a big family or something. If you're like a single guy or a couple, this would be a great car to drive down to the Tail of the Dragon or something like that. And you'd obviously get great fuel economy being a 3-cylinder, especially if you stay off boost. And then when you get down there, you can romp on it and have lots of fun and drive back home. So you do have some storage space in this thing, not a whole lot, but some. The trunk is a little bit shallow for a hatchback, and I think that's because of the all-wheel drive system. You've got a differential and stuff down there. I find myself putting my hand on the e-brake here whenever I'm resting, as opposed to having an armrest here, which I guess is not the end of the world. But yeah, for a new car, this thing is surprisingly simple inside and simple to drive. You know, it doesn't have a ton of gadgets and gizmos and buttons everywhere and all these different, like, yeah, it's got the drive modes and the modern features and stuff, but I found it was pretty easy to just get in and go. It didn't require a whole lot of learning. It's very intuitive the way that everything is set up on this car, and that's something that Toyota is known for. They've always been pretty good at that. Visibility is pretty good. I think forward visibility is really good. Sides is good too. The one thing that I did notice in the rear though is that despite it having a good sized rear window that you can see out the rear view mirror here, the headrests of the back seat take up quite a bit of that back window, so you're kind of looking through sort of a smaller sort of a box that you're looking through at the back. Let's get on some more back roads. A little less traffic. Man, that shifter feels so good. The brakes are really great on this car too as well. Of course, it's no surprise. They're big and they're red, so they have to stop good, right? That's the rule. I think these are the kind of situations where that engine pitch mount makes a difference. This kind of like rolling forwards and then into first gear on the speed bump. Apparently a stock GR has a bit of trouble with that. One thing I am noticing, it's not really a complaint, I wouldn't say, but the throttle sensitivity on this car, it just feels a little bit weird. And I think part of that is just the fact that it's drive-by-wire as opposed to a cable-driven throttle body. That's just sort of a new car being a new car, I guess. But it's a little bit hard to modulate on and off. And then you also factor in there's a certain amount of rev hang in between gears. And I remember reading somewhere, I think manufacturers are actually adding rev hang on purpose. It's something to do with emissions. But I noticed like a certain amount of disconnect from my foot to the throttle compared to a cable-driven car. And I think in sport mode like this is probably helping the sensitivity somewhat as well. This is kind of a rougher section of road, and I'm noticing a little bit of tire rub on the front end, I think. Yeah, it's rubbing a little bit. So the front fenders need to be rolled, the offset of the wheels needs to be changed. He is going to be putting different wheels in this car. So why don't you guys comment down below, what color do you think would look good on this gray GR? Because I think he's He's having a bit of trouble deciding what color to get. The ride over this rougher road, though, I have to say it's smoother than I was expecting. I think this street is a pretty good test. And it is very, very well tuned, especially knowing that the factory didn't tune the suspension to be on these springs, and it still is doing a really good job. Yeah, that throttle sensitivity it's kind of hard to explain. Like, it's not bad, but it just feels different. And I have a feeling that's probably something that a product like the pedal commander would help with, and being able to kind of adjust that. I'm not a fan of the pedal commanders, just a little side note. I think the proper way to handle something like that is to get your car tuned properly. Get your ECU tuned, and they can adjust that kind of stuff in the tune. And you're also going to get obviously more power, better fuel economy, and all the other perks of properly tuning your ECU. I think just getting a module and plugging it in to adjust your gas pedal is maybe not the move. She honks, boys. She definitely honks. I really like the short gearing in this transmission. This 6-speed is quite short with the gears, to the point where you run out of first gear almost immediately at full throttle. I feel like this is a car that can absolutely get you into trouble. And what I mean by that is, when I get behind the wheel of my MR2, even after owning it for, 19 years now or something, I feel a little bit scared every time I fire it up. Like, is this thing gonna try and kill me? Because it's just that sketchy, it's that raw, it's that, to be honest, bad to drive unless you're, used to it and you have a certain skill level. This car is almost too good at what it does. It makes you feel like you're driving a video game. And all of the electronics are doing the job that they're intended to do so well, to the point that you don't realize how fast you're going until you look down here. I think if you could only own one car here in Canada, this could be it. I would love to know what this car drives like in the wintertime in the snow with a good set of snow tires. I think this would be incredible. Of course, you'd want to make sure to get it oil sprayed and keep it clean, because you wouldn't want this thing rusting on you. But it's a very well-rounded car. You can use it for so many things. It's got decent storage space. It's good on gas if you're not driving like an idiot. It's going to be reliable because they've overbuilt this car, and it's a Toyota in the end. It's comfortable too. I have to say, these seats, they've got really good support in them, but they're not too tight to the point where they're like biting into my back or anything. I could definitely drive this car for a long distance comfortably, I think. I guess that depends on how you're built. But for me, they're hugging me quite nicely. Mind you, we are getting close to the end of thick boy season, so if you know, you know. It'll get you up to speed, but it'll bring you back down real quick with those brakes too. This is an overall very balanced car. It's just got like the power level, I feel like it's perfectly matched to the braking and perfectly matched to the handling, where you're gonna have a really hard time getting this car out of control in a corner, or even just trying to break the tires loose. There's just so much grip in this. There's so much traction. If you're trying to go fast, that's a good thing. If you're trying to drive something that has a lot of drama behind the wheel, maybe this isn't the car for you, because it is very, very well engineered. Let's get a little roundabout action here. Wow, it just grips. I feel like such a wannabe journalist right now reviewing a car, but I'm intending these sort of POV driving impressions videos to be really raw, of just, I'm a regular car enthusiast, I'm getting behind the wheel of a car for the first time. These are the things that I'm noticing. This is what I like, what I don't like, and so hopefully that shows through on these videos. If you did enjoy this car and this style video, please make sure to like the video and leave me a comment and let me know, because I do want to make more of these, but if nobody's going to watch them, I'll move on to something else. So don't worry, we're still going to be doing lots of Toyota truck content on this channel. That kind of stuff that you've sort of grown to know and love, it's not going anywhere. I'm just sprinkling in some new stuff to keep the channel fresh, and to be honest, I'm just looking for ways to share my passion for cars. I'm surprised at how connected this steering feels despite it being so lightweight. This 3-cylinder really does have a unique sound. I like it. This car, you can just get in and drive and just keep going. You don't get tired of driving. You don't get fatigued or anything. It's like, it's comfortable and it's fast and it does everything so well on its own. It makes driving a little bit too easy almost. Let's make one more attempt to try and get some exhaust sounds out of this thing. Windows down. Not much. Should probably be filming these videos on Sunday mornings or something, because I keep getting stuck behind transport trucks on these on-ramps. This thing is quick, man. So what's my verdict? This is an incredible car. I think Toyota knocked it out of the park on this, and I'm really surprised that we're even getting cars like this in this day and age, when it seems like every automaker is switching to boring electric cars and worrying about fuel efficiency and stuff. To be building performance-oriented cars like this is really a nice breath of fresh air, I think. I would argue this is the best car that Toyota builds currently. And of course, like in the GR lineup, you have the Supra, the Corolla here, and the GR86. But out of those three cars, you know, the GR86 is a joint effort with Subaru, and the Supra is a joint effort with BMW. This is the only car that's all Toyota in the GR lineup. And I think there's something to be said for that. That makes this one special. And the lower production numbers on these, I think these are for certain going to be collector cars eventually somewhere down the line. So now let's go back home and let's get this puppy all cleaned up. Let's give her a good bath and get a fresh tank of gas for it, and then I'll deliver it back to the owner. That's gonna be part of this whole video series where we drive them and we clean them up. I want to find ways to appreciate interesting vehicles, and I want to share them with you guys. I think that's gonna wrap it up for me here. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you on the next video.